Okay, so we are supposed to talk about implications for practice, right? Or what we can take from this if we end up being admin in an elementary school or even not, right? So knowing what comes before middle school and high school. So what do you guys think? Because I have been in this world for a long time, so I'm curious to see what you take from it as well.
So for me personally, especially having, children that are going to be in third grade, it was very interesting to go through and read about their social emotional development, because you don't see, or I've not been exposed to as many physical abnormalities in that age group, reading about the physical development and the fine and gross motor skills. That makes sense. That was logical. But looking at the jump between third, fourth, and fifth grade to cliques, that social element was so important. And then thinking about hiring, thinking about getting the right people in those positions, given that that's such a huge area of growth for them socially, emotionally, and they're spending most of their time in the school system. My brain went straight to hiring and went to programs to help develop those character traits, and now understand more why we see character traits pushed so hard in the lower grades.
Right. So like the terrific kids programs and things like that. And then making sure that you have some sort of guidance curriculum that's really heavy on that social emotional, because that's when they're really learning those skills and how to interact with each other. Um, and that's where cyberbullying and bullying can really start to become a problem. And, if you don't get a handle on it at that third through fifth grade age, we all know what happens when they go on to middle school and high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I found to be very interesting. There is that aspect of the fact that they're moving from the concrete stage to more of the abstract stage, even like in mathematics and even in telling jokes. You can see, how they move from being very concrete in their jokes to the puns. And so I thought that was very interesting, and how that is the prime age at which we can build on ideas such as kindness and jump piggybacking off of what Jennifer and also what you were saying, Michelle, that this really is that prime age for understanding. It's not, the world doesn't revolve around me. It revolves, what is my place, and how can I be the best that I can be in my place, in the circle of friends that I have. And I found that to be very interesting, because I see that, even having been in high school the last few years, how some of our students, and I think that Jennifer can speak to this or can attest to this fact, how even some of the high school kids, some of them have trouble fitting in. Some of them have trouble finding their place there in their circle of friends, even, or even finding their circle of friends, or even acting in a way that would be just a nice human, even a kind human being to other people. And so I find that, in having done this study as a principal, I think for me, it's not just the academics, it's also the social, emotional components. It's enveloping the whole child, even with the physical activities, and bringing home some of the academic points to physical activity, like hopping and jumping and skipping, and all of those components that I think help make the academic learning stick with them, because you've incorporated the physical learning and you've also made it a social thing also. And kids really thrive in a friendly, competitive way, because they're into competitive relay games and group games, and they're into wanting to work with their best friends. And so for me, this has been really eye-opening in that sense, just how much that social component and emotional component really was for this age group.
Yeah, and that's something that we are really struggling with now, moving to remote learning, because that is really hard to do, through a computer. It's hard to support a child's social and emotional health and learning, online, especially if they don't have the tools to get online. And so that's what we are worrying about now. That's our focus now, instead of academics, is that. And when we come back to school, that's going to have to be our main focus. Before we dig back into academics, is just the well-being of them, because they've, we all have that hierarchy of needs, and that's below academic. You have to have that met before you're going to be able to learn. But also, I like what you said at the beginning about moving to more abstract thinking, especially in mathematics and things. And so it was interesting to see, played out from the K2 developmental project, where they're learning those fundamentals, right? The phonics and number sense and those sort of skills. And then you can see it in 3rd through 5th grade. You can see if there are holes there, because if there are holes there in those fundamentals, then they're not going to be successful in 3rd through 5th grade. So that's something that now 3rd through 5th grade teachers are having to understand how to fill those like basic gaps, phonics gaps and number sense and correspondence and those sort of things. Because if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to, for example, analyze a text if you can't decode a text. You're not going to be able to solve multi-step word problems if you don't have a sense of what, base 10. So to really make sure that they understand the progression of the skills. And so then we're even having kids leave 5th grade, go into the middle school with those gaps still there. So I think as a future administrator, it's really important that all of our staff kind of understands that progression and has the support to be able to fill those holes. Because I know middle school teachers are saying, we don't know how to teach reading, right? I don't know how to teach phonics. I don't know how to teach decoding. And so I think that's something that we're going to have to be aware of as admin.
Zoraida, I'm curious, because you are moving to elementary school for your principalship. What other key takeaways do you feel are going to be beneficial after doing this project?
I realize I have to not expect that when I speak with younger children in this age bracket that I can speak on the same level that I would speak with my high school students. I just realized I can't. There are things that I can say to a high schooler, and they're going to get it. I realize that for 3rd to 5th graders, I really have to. Okay, you know how when your little one scrapes their knee and you want to see the boo-boo, you have to stoop down. Right, and you have to like kneel and bend over and look at the scrape on their knee. I realized that for me, it's going to be a lot of that. I'd have to stoop down. I have to bend over and look at. And I think that for me, it's not dumbing it down so much as breaking it down into ways that younger people can understand it. And I think also for dealing with staff people, it's not, once again, that they're dumbing. I'm not dumbing it down. It's where together, how do we present material to 3rd to 5th graders in a way that's going to meet their needs in the best possible way? And for me, you're right. It's going to be a jump, because I'm coming from high schoolers where it's just like, they're just, most of them, we're getting them ready to leave their mom and dad, go off to high school, go to trade school, move out on their own. And 3rd and 5th graders, no, we're not training them to do any of those kinds of things. We're just training them to become more self-sufficient, to set an alarm clock, to do those things that we take for granted our high schoolers are already doing. And so for me, it's peeling back some of my expectations and not starting from square one, as just starting more from a beginning standpoint. And so for me, it's just going back and saying, what do I need to have them be able to do by the time they're in high school? And then say, okay, that's where I need to be starting from. And so always having my end in mind, and then saying, okay, almost like a mental checklist. This is where I want these little humans to be by the time they get there, these 3rd and 5th graders. I really want them to be at this stage now, not just academically, but socially and emotionally and physically, and in all the ways that will really help to make them a better, happier person and productive citizen. So for me, it's my mental jump from high school to upper elementary. Yeah, that's a really good question, Jennifer, because I actually really had been thinking about, just getting my mindset into, okay, more spoon feeding than just putting the whole plate in front of
What about you, Jennifer?
Yeah.
The same thing, Jennifer?
So for me, I was going to add on to what you had said about programs and having gaps in upper grades, because that's pretty consistent all the way through. And then I thought about programming and staff as an administrator, where you have to have those programs but also taking my high school experience with Comets Plus and targeting those students that have gaps with the right staff, getting them the one-on-one, especially with MTSS becoming law as opposed to IEPs, and really getting the staff on board with the PD and getting the right people in the right place so that we shore up those gaps. If we've got 10% of our students, I have no idea what percentage it would be. If we have 10% moving on with gaps in reading and math, it's unrealistic to get that to 0, but it's definitely realistic to get that down to 5 to 6%. And that would be one of my goals, to set a program so that as they go to middle school and they go to high school, that we've reduced that number.
Yeah. I think another thing that you'll find in the elementary school setting regarding staffing is that those elementary school teachers in general, and this is a little bit of a stereotype, but in general are the lovey-dovey sort of teachers. Now there will be some strict, they love on those babies, right? But we have to sort of balance that and push them to make sure that what they are doing is rigorous academically and that they have high expectations for all students. Even if you can still, we can't love them into growing, right? We can't love them into learning. And your hearts might be in the right place, but we really have to be, solid in our pedagogy, solid in our content knowledge, solid in our ability to differentiate and recognize when kids need something, right? And so that's kind of the battle that I've found in the 3rd through 5th grade. Not so much in 5th grade. Usually those 5th grade teachers have that sort of borderline middle school personality where they start to have very, high expectations. They're strict with the way things work in the classroom and they hold everybody accountable. But that's something that we look for when we're interviewing, is that balance of like, I love these babies, but also like, do you know what you're doing? Are you going to be able to really, deliver the content that these kids need? And then even with K2 as well, fighting the battle of we don't have to have everything have a theme, right? Like in September, we study apples. Why? Because it's cute, or because, it has ties to the content in what ways, so moving away from that, like elementary school is cute and loving, but also we've got to do better by our kids and really prepare them for what's coming. And we can do that in a loving way, but we've got to be a little bit more intentional, I think.
That's good, Michelle. It's really good to hear that perspective, because having done only high school, you tend to think elementary is lovey-dovey and cute. So it's really good to hear that razor sharp focus on, you can be loving, but loving doesn't get the results necessarily. Right. That was really an excellent perspective to come at it. So really, thank you. That was good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'm interested to do the next one, because middle school is foreign to me, and my daughter's in middle school, but she's very independent and doesn't need my help. So it's still, kind of, I don't know what's going to be happening next year when they go into 6th grade. So I'm curious and I'm excited. I like that we're building on it in this way.
Are you going to be in the same school she'll be in next year?
I am. Yeah.
Oh, that should be. Oh, I look forward to
hearing. I'm happy about that.
Yes. Should be good.
Yeah. Well, if we don't have anything else to share, I think that's pretty good. Takeaways, you guys? Anything else you want to share? All right.
No, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah. So I will stop the video.